3 a.m. Shocking truth: when Hell's Angels faced devastating trouble, an elderly hero emerged. The clock struck 3, and the air thickened with tension, like the moment just before a lightning strike. Outside a rundown diner on the outskirts of town, the Hells Angels, a notorious motorcycle gang, were gathered. Their leather jackets and intimidating tattoos made them look downright menacing under the flickering neon lights. They were no ordinary gang. Rumors swirled like smoke. Some said they were involved in serious crime, while others whispered tales of the dark rituals performed in the dead of night. But tonight, something felt different, an unease that danced at the edges of their laughter and bravado. Suddenly, a loud crash broke the night's silence. A dumpster near the alley had tipped over, scattering garbage like discarded dreams. All eyes turned to the shadowy figure emerging from the darkness. It was an elderly man. It didn't seem possible. With a weathered face that looked like leather itself, he shuffled closer, hands trembling yet determined. The angels laughed at his frailty, dismissing him as a mere nuisance. But when he spoke, his voice was deep and steady. "You boys should leave this town, it's not safe for you anymore." The gang's laughter froze. Who was this feeble old man to speak to them like that? But then, like a ripple through water, they sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The light from the diner flickered, and for a split second, it felt like the world held its breath. What did this man know that they didn't? They exchanged uneasy glances, uncertainty creeping in like shadows at twilight. And then there were whispers among the angels, tales of a dark force that haunted these streets, a spirit that exacted vengeance against those who wronged the innocent. The old man seemed unfazed by their scorn, his eyes glinting with a strange wisdom that chilled to the bone. Was he a guardian, a prophet, or something altogether more sinister? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the old man stepped closer, the temperature seemed to drop. The tiniest hint of a smirk crept across his lips, sending shivers down their spines. "I've seen what happens to men like you, they don't last long here," he warned, his voice low and gravelly. No one laughed now. The angels felt an unshakable tension, the kind that makes your heart race. What could possibly happen next? Each member stood frozen in place, contemplating the odd twist fate had taken. And as the wind howled around them, they couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched, from somewhere beyond the grave. They had no idea the true test was just about to begin. What if they weren't just facing a man, but their own darkest fears? The air crackled with an eerie stillness, and for a moment, it felt like time itself had collapsed. The old man stood between them and the shadows, his faded eyes glimmering with a knowing glint, and the wind howled a mournful tune. "What do you mean?" A burly angel named Steele finally asked, breaking the silence, his voice heavy with skepticism but laced with an edge of fear. "I mean, what lurks here doesn't care about your bravado," the old man replied, stepping forward. "This isn't your turf anymore. The dark has claimed it." A sharp laugh erupted from one of the gang members, but it sounded hollow, even to him. The gang exchanged glances, their bravado ebbing away like the tide. Shadows danced along the alley walls, taunting them with reminders of their past, the fear they had instilled elsewhere, the blood spilled in the name of power. "Maybe we should just leave," another member whispered, but Steele shot him a fierce glare. "Shut it. Your strength won't protect you here," the old man warned, his voice unwavering. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "You think your leather hides you from the truth? You will learn what fear looks like." As the last word escaped his lips, the lights in the diner flickered violently before plunging into darkness. The laughter and chatter that had filled the air moments ago fell silent, replaced by an uncomfortable stillness. Murmurs rippled through the angels. Steel felt a tightening in his chest, a sensation he had long buried beneath layers of callous defiance. It was as if the shadows themselves were closing in, encompassing them in a claustrophobic grip of dread. His bravado faltered. "What is happening?" someone asked, panic creeping into his tone. "Something is coming," another angel muttered, eyes darting to the darkness, searching for signs of danger. "Look!" Steel shouted suddenly, pointing towards the far end of the alley where a chilling silhouette began to materialize, its form indistinct but undeniably menacing. The figure seemed to absorb the shadows around it, growing stronger, more defined with every heartbeat. The angels instinctively took a half-step back, their earlier sneers dying on their lips. The old man didn't flinch. Instead, he tilted his head, as if he had been expecting this moment all along. "You cannot outrun your past," he said, his voice a gravelly whisper as the figure took a step closer, revealing dark, hollow eyes that seemed to draw in the very light around them. "Run!" Steel shouted, his instincts finally screaming at him. But the old man's voice cut through the rising chaos, steadying their hearts. "Fight! But remember, fear will always be your greatest enemy." The words hung in the air, and in that moment, the gang was forced to confront their darkest realities. What if this figure wasn't just a specter but a reckoning? As they stood helplessly weighing their options, the shadows writhed around them, a dark omen of chaos that swallowed the very ground they stood upon. "Are you going to let your fear dictate your destiny?" The old man challenged, eyes boring into each of them, daring them to respond. In a heartbeat, the figure stepped forward, letting out an unearthly growl that rattled their bones. Panic surged as Steel realized they had not only angered a man but awakened something far more powerful. The moment braced for collision, and they had to make a choice: would they stand or would they run? But nothing could prepare them for what lurked in the darkness beyond the old man's warning. With a sudden rush, the night exploded around them, plunging them into a fight for survival, and the echoes of their past began to haunt them all over again. Was it too late to escape the very demons they had summoned to life? As the shadows dove deep into the alley, one question lingered: would they confront their fears, or would they be consumed by them? The echo of that growl resonated deep in Steel's bones. The figure, now unmistakably monstrous, towered over them with an aura of darkness that felt heavier than the night itself. The chilling sight brought a terrible clarity to the gang. A rush of memories, screams, images of bloodied faces flashed through their minds. "I won't let this happen!" Steel shouted, adrenaline surging. He rushed at the looming shape, fists raised, determination fighting against the terror clawing at his heart. His gang hesitated, caught in a web of instinct and fear. "Wait! Steel, don't!" But it was too late. The moment he lunged, the night split open with a roar that drowned out his voice. The creature's eyes shone deeper than the abyss, an invitation and a threat. It stepped closer, the shadows swirling around it like a cloak, blotting out the scant light of the alley. Steel's fists connected, but the impact felt like punching a wall of pure fear. The figure didn't stagger but only seemed to draw strength from the defiance. A low, mocking chuckle reverberated through the air, merging with the rattling chains of his memories. "Fear is the bind that holds you together," it whispered, each word curling into Steel's mind like smoke. "You've forged your shackles with blood and regret." Chaos erupted as the other angels followed Steel, rushing in with their weapons, desperately trying to strike, to combat something that their hearts already deemed unbeatable. They didn't feel like a gang now, they felt like desperate children, flailing against darkness. The old man watched, unmoving but focused, his eyes piercing through the whirlwind of violence and fear. "This is your fight. Only you can cut your fear loose. Not with blades but with truth." Steel found his feet slipping before he could register it, his legs faltering as tendrils of smoke rolled toward him, wrapping around his ankles like a lover's embrace. The others struggled too, caught in the dark arms of their past, each one facing their own demons as they fell into an abyss they thought they'd escaped. Steel's breath hitched. Stay together. We can't let it take us. He yelled, but his voice felt brittle. From within, a rising tide of doubt clawed at him, threatening to pull him under. Each encroaching shadow reminded him of his wrong choices, of the lives he had ruined, of the people who had turned their backs while he danced in the light of false power. Panic swiped like a blade across his chest. The old man stepped forward, breaking the spell. Remember who you are. You've faced worse than mere shadows. You've conquered flesh and blood. Don't you dare let the dark win. With those words, something ignited in Steele's soul. He was not just a shadow among shadows. He was more. He had to be. Summoning the remnants of his courage, he focused on the faces of innocent people, their laughter bouncing off the walls of his memories like joyful echoes. The laughter faded, but their hope remained. Fight back. He roared, and for the first time, determination sparked in the eyes of his gang. They rallied behind Steele, thoughts of redemption swirling in their minds, as they pounced against their fears, but just as they seemed to gain momentum, the monstrous figure surged forward, its mouth stretching into a derisive grin. Is that all you've got? It taunted, the air thickening with its malevolence, and just when it seemed the darkness would swallow them whole, Steele felt a light ignite within him, one that even the deepest shadows couldn't snuff out. Together! He cried, as the gang steadied themselves alongside him, a collective breath fueled by newfound resolve. As they charged as one, the shadows began to pulse, and for an instant, the dark figure's confidence wobbled. But what would happen next? A standoff between fear and valor. Could they turn their regrets into strength, or would the darkness reclaim them? With echoes of their past swirling in the chaos, a decision loomed on the horizon, one that would determine whether they would finally emerge unscathed or be swallowed by their own nightmares. Steele felt the rush of air as they charged, the dread coiling tighter around them like a noose, but something deeper propelled him. It was as if his heart had ignited, burning against the cold darkness surrounding them. As they barreled forward, the monster met their advance with an enraged howl, a sound that pierced the night, echoing like a death knell. Now! Strike! Shouted Steele, his voice cutting through the shadowy despair. The gang swung their weapons with the fury of a storm, hope infusing each elegant arc. But the creature was a whirlwind of darkness, swirling and writhing, slipping through the strikes like the smoke it embodied. No! The voice was that of one of the gang members, Marie, her face reflecting pure terror as a shadow lashed out, knocking her to the ground. Steele's heart lurched. Marie! He staggered back, wrestling with the urge to help her. But he couldn't lose focus. The others rallied around, fending off the encroaching darkness. His eyes darted to the old man, who remained stoic, his expression calm amidst the chaos, a beacon of unwavering spirit. Your past has shaped you, but it doesn't define you. The old man yelled, directing his energy at Steele. Let it go to free yourself. Steele clenched his fists tighter, determination anchoring him. He remembered every face, every life he had touched or ruined. The warmth of their dreams, vibrant and alive. Fuel surged through him, he wouldn't let them down. Not now. With renewed conviction, he bellowed, push forward. We can conquer this filth that binds us. The gang, feeling his energy, pressed on with renewed vigor, their strikes crashing against the monstrous form again and again, but the figure only grew more vicious, drawing strength from their desperation. With each attempted blow, the shadows leaped forward, morphing into grotesque shapes that mocked human despair, wretched faces, snarling visages, twisted remnants of what they once feared. A funeral procession of nightmares. Remember the good. Harness it. Shouted Steele, desperate for anyone to listen. Hold tight to it. We can do this. As if on cue, one by one, the gang members began to visibly shake off their darkness. Memories flooded back, not just of fear or regret, but of joy, laughter, moments that made life worth living. Steele saw Marie rise up, fighting against the tendrils like a phoenix rising from ashes. Suddenly, the old man lunged forward, stepping into the fray. Face your fears. he cried, drawing the attention of the creature like a magnet. Together, they are but shadows. Steel, caught off guard, realized that its eyes were now fixated on the old man. The shadows hesitated, unsure of where to strike next. Steel seized the moment. This is it. Strike hard. In unison, each member of the gang surrounded the creature, fueled by memories of lighter times, piercing through the heaviness of despair. Steel could feel a spark and energy that pulsed between him and his friends, as though the fabric of reality was shifting in their favor. But just as they seemed on the brink of victory, the monster roared, a sound so thunderous it shook the ground beneath them. The shadows writhed, twisting together, forming into a larger, more grotesque form. You think you can defy me? I am your worst memories made flesh. It bellowed, and the ground cracked like thunder. Steel's breath hitched, panic clawing at him once more. Grit your teeth. We're not done yet. He bellowed amidst the chaos, trying to hold his gang together, but a creeping doubt threatened to seep in. Could they really fight their own demons? Just how far would the darkness go to claim them? As the shadows began to dance around them, pulling at their ankles, Steel felt the answer slide into his mind, but he couldn't grasp it. Trust yourselves. Steel shouted, as the darkness surged forward once more. We can do this. The old man's voice echoed in his ears. Face your truth, find your power, and then, everything shattered. A blinding light exploded from their collective hearts, pure and fierce, cutting through the night like a blade. The creature shrieked, a sound that rattled the very air. But at the moment Steel thought they might have triumphed, the ground beneath them roared again, a promise of chaos yet to unfold. What had they really awakened? Was there light enough to banish the shadows, or had they merely stirred a greater evil? As the light flickered, Steel's gut twisted with fear, uncertainty crashing in like a tidal wave. What awaited them next would test everything they thought they knew about courage and themselves. The world turned white, blindingly bright. It was a force unlike anything Steel had ever known, surging through his veins as if it were alive. For a heartbeat, he thought they had a chance. But then reality collapsed into itself, the creature's furious howl echoed again, but this time it resonated deeper, a guttural vibration that rattled their bones. Dark tendrils jerking, it lashed out at their light, fighting back like a beast cornered. The ground beneath them quaked in response, and the light flickered. Stay together. Steel shouted, panic creeping in again. He felt the warmth of their united strength slipping. They needed to hold on, they had awakened something, but at what cost? The shadows twisted, dark fingers clawing upward like a grotesque dance. Faces emerged, snaring Steel's gaze, faces he recognized all too well. His childhood friend, Jason, lost to despair. His mother, eyes hollow with regret. Each visage was a testament to his past, forgotten promises, and the weight of unmade choices. Steel. Marie screamed as another shadow lunged at her, dragging her down with whispered fears. It's dragging me back. No. He cried, his fists tightening until his nails dug into his palms. They couldn't lose anyone else. With fierce resolution, he charged forward, but the darkness was relentless. It swirled like a tempest, and as he displaced one shadow, another rose to take its place. We have to fight back with more than hope. Shouted the old man, his voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. You wield greater power than you realize. Steel felt the stirrings of something primal, a thought that ignited a spark in his core. We're fighting for each other. Against despair. He roared, letting the truth of their bond infuse him with strength. Remember who you are. One by one, the gang began to rally. He watched them shake off the spectral chains binding them, confronting their fears, each shout a defiance against the shadows. They were not alone. They had each other. Rise. Steel urged, and with each incantation of strength, their combined will ignited the fading light again. Yet, as the creature shrieked and twisted, something more sinister loomed. The shadows coalesced, and the landscape around them began to dissolve, revealing a twisted, warped reflection of their worst nightmares. The old man stood firm, still facing the creature head-on. "This is your trial. Your truth will break the facade." His voice rang out powerful, affirming, an echo of hope that trickled through their despair, but Steele felt it, the weight of uncertainty creeping back into his heart. What did this truly mean? Were they meant to conquer or merely survive? Then, from the edge of the swirling darkness, he glimpsed a figure watching. A woman, not from his memories, but alien and strange, yet eerily familiar. Her eyes glowed, bright as stars swallowed by shadows. "Steele. You must find me." It was a jolt, a name, a whisper that tugged at him deeper than the abyss. She was calling him, pulling him away from the darkness in the most painfully inviting way. "Who are you?" Steele shouted, feet sinking into the dark as he took a tentative step forward. "Trust them, or you will lose everything," she breathed, and in that moment, Steele felt the walls of uncertainty crumbling away. "Steele. Focus." Marie's desperate shout pierced through his thoughts. "We need you." He turned back to his team, the full weight of reality crashing around them. The creature wasn't just a monster, it was a manifestation of their deepest fears, their pasts. Could they truly confront it together? As Steele steadied himself among the swirling chaos, he knew he had to make a choice: dive into the depths of his memories, or follow the chilling whisper of the glowing figure. Could bravery rise from the ashes of their failures? Was trust enough to break the cycle? The air was electric, tensions high as an imminent storm rolled in. The light flickered, pulses of warmth battling the creeping chill of despair. This was the moment, yet dread clung like a suffocating shroud. Steele's heart thumped in his chest. Somewhere amidst the shadows, hope lingered, but would they find it in time? The darkness surged one last time, and Steele braced himself, ready for whatever horror awaited, worrying if he would even survive the next breath. What awaited on the other side of choice? Would they find salvation, or were they doomed to repeat their mistakes? The shadows convulsed violently around them, a chaotic cacophony of sorrow and rage. Steele's chest tightened further, the weight of his friend's fears mingling with his own. He had felt their anguish pulse through the air, but now it threatened to pull him under, a dark tide rising with every passing second. Marie's cries echoed in his ears. "Steele. Don't let it pull me back." The desperation in her voice was maddening, a mixture of fear and vulnerability that struck him deep. He crouched low, wrapping his arms around himself as an anchor against the tempest. Focus. He needed to focus on what truly mattered. Fear had no place among their collective will. "Channel your fears." The old man shouted, eyes aflame with determination. "Channel them, power them through the light." The light flickered again, farther now, barely holding on. If they fell apart, if Marie lost her battle, his heart raced at the thought. He could fail, too. Did they genuinely have the strength to change their destiny, or were they destined to be consumed by darkness? "Remember the good times," Steele yelled, as he fought to stitch together the memories of laughter and friendship that bathed them in warmth. "We're more than our pain. We are still here. Together." Roots of courage began to spread in the hearts of his group, pouring into their veins like an electric rush. Alongside Steele, they shouted out their names, their shared moments, the sun-drenched picnics, the shared secrets under the night sky, all the times they had held each other up when the world felt too heavy. Shadows spiraled like banshees, hissing, but the connection forged a luminous barrier against despair. The swirling darkness began to retract, snaking away from them as if alarmed at being reminded of their joy. Steele dared to hope, his heart pounding with a mirage of triumph. But then, that figure appeared again, shimmering at the periphery of consciousness. "Steele." Her voice soared, ethereal yet filled with urgency. "You must choose. Give in to your grief, or let it guide you to your truth. Easy for you to say." He spat, frustration bubbling up. She looked almost like an angel among demons, but if she was here, who was he really fighting against? "Steele." Marie's voice broke through, cracking like glass. You are not alone. The words shook him. Steel, realizing he had diverted his focus away just long enough, faced the monster growing at the center of their fight. It pulsated, a black mass writhing with memories long buried, teeth glistening like shards of hate. No. I refuse to let you take her. Steel howled, channeling sheer will into a tangible stream of light. We are not afraid. We live. We love. We fight for what we believe in. The light responded, brightening like the dawn breaking after a long, dark night. Strength surged through him, crackling energy, palpable and fierce. Together, they launched a wave of hope blasting through the shadows, igniting a chain reaction that rippled outward. But the creature laughed, a nightmarish sound that echoed like thunder in the silence. It was no ordinary monster, it fed off despair. And as their light grew, Steel realized something terrifying: the creature was only growing angrier. Steel, don't look back now. Focus. The old man's voice boomed, the urgency palpable. The ground trembled again, shadows clawing at their heels. Steel felt it, the sudden weight of memories he had tried to flee from. The pulsing light from within him dimmed. What if darkness was not merely the absence of light, but something more insidious? Something rooted deep in his unmade choices. Follow her. She knows. The old man insisted, his gaze still fixed on the writhing horror. A choice hung before him, like a bridge over a chasm he was terrified to cross. To trust an unfamiliar voice, or hold on to the chaos inside. The shadows writhed closer. Could he reach the woman pulling him forward, or would he forge ahead alone, swallowed by the very fears he fought to transcend? Time was a dwindling ember, and as the tension reached a fever pitch, the echo of his past crept menacingly near. The air stilled, but the darkness raged on. What lay beyond this threshold? Would love guide him to safety, or would it be too late? Steel's breath hitched as the shadows danced around him, morphing into twisted faces contorted in agony and despair. They clawed at his thoughts, whispering dark secrets, dredging up memories he had buried deep. Steel. Marie's voice pierced through the fog, desperate and unyielding. Don't you dare turn away from me. I'm trying. He shouted back, his voice laced with anguish. Every word felt like a fight against the flood of darkness trying to engulf them. The old man's call for focus grew frantic, but here, in the depths of this dark trench of fear, clarity felt elusive. The shrill laughter of the creature sliced through the sounds of their collective hope, a sound both intoxicating and horrifying. It surged closer, a grotesque shadow threatening to swallow the light, to drown the collective strength of Steel and his friends. Listen to me. The figure beckoned from the distance, her shimmering form flickering like a faulty bulb. You must confront your past, or it will consume you. Steel shook his head, fighting back against the pain swirling inside him. Could he confront what he had lost? The people who had loved him fiercely and whom he had failed? Images of their smiles, their laughter, flooded into his mind, mixed with faces he could no longer see. Guilt wrapped around him like a noose, but the old man's presence steadied him. Don't let the memories cripple you. Let them strengthen your resolve. Steel's pulse quickened, feeling the weight of that encouragement. Memories fragile yet powerful. They could either be chains binding him or swords to cut through the darkness. So much hung in the balance, Marie's life, the lives of everyone he loved. He glanced back at her, the fear in her eyes urging him on. Marie, he whispered, as recognition struck him like a thunderclap. He didn't just have love to fight with, he had every moment shared between them, every laugh, ever melancholy goodbye. You're right. I refuse to give in to despair. Fueled by conviction, he pressed forward, fists clenched. You want my grief? You'll have to fight for it. The shadows recoiled as his voice rose, growing bolder with every word. These moments you seek to twist and corrupt, they are a celebration of what we had. Every pain, every joy, I will not deny our truth. In response, the creature's anger grew monstrous. It belted out roars that rattled the bones in his body, shaking the very ground beneath them. Tendrils of darkness lashed out, striking Steel across the chest. He staggered back, feeling the weight of their memories ghost through him, but somehow, a fire ignited deep within. Together. He roared again, inviting the spirits of his friends to merge with his own invincible spirit. Suddenly, the pierce of light swelled around them, a radiant crescendo of warmth unfurling amidst the chaos. The creature writhed, thrashing against the brightness that erupted from their unity. They weren't just fuel for his hope, they were the foundation of a fortress. "Come on, everyone. We can do this," Steel shouted, heart thrumming. But right at the peak of their joint strength, something unexpected happened. The woman broke through the fray, her figure glowing with an ominous proximity. "You must choose, Steel. Finish this, or let your past destroy you." His eyes widened. What did she mean by that? Wasn't his path clear now? Tension cranked up like an electric pulse, binding them all together tighter than ever. The shadows twitched and coiled, a tempest ready to burst forth. Steel-esque nodded. What more would he have to sacrifice to end this? Would he lose Marie to save everyone else, or find a way to save them all? Time screeched to a halt, and in that eerie silence, he faced an inevitable truth. How far would he truly go to save those he loved? The walls of their world were trembling, and the air crackled with the potency of unmade decisions. What would Steel choose in the moment of truth, when darkness beckoned seductively? Would he rise to the call, or would the shadows have the last laugh? Steel felt the weight of the moment on his shoulders, like 1,000 stones pressing down, ready to break him. The creature's laughter was a cacophony, mocking his indecision, playing on the fears he tried to bury. "Steel." Marie's voice quaked with urgency. "Make the choice. We're running out of time." He blinked, the clarity offered by her plea cutting through the haze of shadows that surrounded them. They needed him. They all needed him. Yet, how could he choose? Would he risk everything, his past, his pain, the very essence of his memories, for a future they might not have? Swallowing hard, Steel's heart thumped wildly in his chest. He looked around, seeing the faces of his friends, their eyes reflecting the flickering light that pulsed from their unity. The stakes had never been higher. Together, he breathed, the word a silent vow. Together, we can dispel this darkness. And then he stepped forward, fists raised, summoning every shred of strength and love buried deep in his being. Memories washed over him, laughter shared with Marie, sunsets tinged with gold and crimson, the warmth of a hand held through thick and thin. Each recollection became a shield against the consuming shadows, but as he advanced, the creature lashed out with renewed fury. The world twisted around him, the ground beneath his feet cracking and splintering like ice underfoot. The temperature dropped, an icy breath blowing through the air, sending a shiver through his spine. "Face your fear." The shimmering woman cried, her voice ringing with authority. The darkness began to swirl more violently, and Steel understood what he had to do. Each fear, each regret he had stashed away came bubbling to the surface, and he knew he must confront them head-on. With each step, he summoned memories not just to fight, but to reckon with, for redemption, for clarity. "Show yourself." He roared, wings of light encircling him like a guardian angel. "I'm not afraid of you." The laughter turned to a howl of rage as the shadows lunged. Tendrils of darkness clawed at him, pulling and tugging, while tightness clung to his throat like a vice. In this maelstrom, he faced visions from his past, his failures, his losses. They loomed like ghosts, snarling at him, demanding acknowledgement. "No more!" he yelled, catching his breath. "I won't let you control me." And in that moment, a crack of light ignited, illuminating the space around him. The shadows faltered, as though the brilliance had struck them like a bolt of lightning. Underneath the clamor, Steel felt a faint pulse, a reminder of who he truly was, someone worthy of love, someone who had the right to fight for a different future. "Can you hear me?" he shouted to his friends, his voice steady now. "I need you. We're stronger together. Focus on the love we share. As if on cue, the others rallied together, their bonds mixing with his storm of memories, creating a cascade of light that pierced through the dark. A collective energy surged, lifting the weight and flooding the despair that clung to them. The creature shrieked, panic suffusing its voice as the light pressed against it, suffocating the darkness. Remember the warmth of the sun, the laughter of children, the moments of joy, Steel urged, summoning strength from the burgeoning light around him. The shadows writhed, shifting and mutating, desperate to find a refuge from the light. Eager limbs recoiled, losing their grip, and the cacophony dimmed, but just as victory seemed within reach, a chilling growl echoed through the air, a final warning. Steel's heart raced as he realized, darkness wouldn't retreat easily. With a newfound tenacity, he braced himself, aware that the looming storm wouldn't just vanish. Would he harness the light properly? Or would it flicker out, leaving them all to fend for themselves in the coming tempest? The uncertainty thickened the air, tangling around them like a noose. Would their combined resolution be enough to defeat the encroaching darkness? Or would this be their end? A creeping fear gnawed at him. As the glow fluctuated, Steel felt the pulse of destiny drawing near. The final stand loomed ahead, and he was all too aware of the stakes. Would he rise to the challenge, or would the entity consume them all, dragging them into the abyss? The shadows writhed like serpents, coiling closer and tighter, desperate to extinguish the light that Steel and his friends had conjured. The creature's presence loomed, a menacing silhouette whose form flickered in the illumination. Steel's heart pounded like a war drum, each beat feeding the anxiety that crept into his mind. "Stay together," gasped Marie, pulling everyone closer. "We can't let it divide us." Her voice cut through the chaos, and Steel locked eyes with each friend. A flicker of determination ignited in the depths of their gazes, but it was fleeting, teetering on the edge of fear. The darkness whispered, persistent and venomous, "You're not enough. You never were." Steel clenched his teeth, pushing the vile refrain aside. "We are enough," he shouted, forcing conviction into every word. The words hung in the air, wrapping around them, igniting fragments of hope like stars in a night sky. The creature roared, a primal sound tearing through the moment, drowning out their hopes. A torrent of black mist erupted around them, swallowing the light and threatening to snuff out their gathered strength. But with a fierce scream, Steel reached deeper, reaching for the memories that fueled him, the warmth of love, the taste of victory, and the dream of what could be. "More," he urged, feeling the energy shift beneath him. With every ounce of emotion flooding through him, the gold and crimson memories surged, intertwining with his friends. This collective force began to forge a shield, defending them against the gnashing shadow. Suddenly, an intense flash of insight struck Steel. What if the darkness knew something they didn't? What if this creature thrived on their own doubts, feeding off their insecurities? That realization turned the heat of determination into a blaze of resolve. "Remember your own strength," he shouted, breathing deeply. "What have we overcome? What have we survived? We are not defined by shadows." The shadows hesitated, as if shaken by his words. Steel's heart raced. Could it truly retreat? Or was this just the calm before a storm more violent than they had faced thus far? Then, the air changed. It crackled with electricity as flickers of light began to pulse rhythmically. It was as if their shared memories were dancing to their heartbeat, a symphony of resilience breaking through the darkness. Steel felt the changes within himself, how power surged when he wasn't alone. "Hold on," Marie shouted, her voice rising to cut through the din of dark energy. Steel felt the vibrations of her determination, a hot knife cutting through the tension. The others echoed her sentiments, raising their voices, summoning the strength of countless moments spent together, the silliness, the warmth, the poignant embraces that meant everything, and then, with one final push, they channeled everything they had into a blinding wave of light. It surged ahead like a tidal wave, lashing against the monster that had tormented them, forcing it to relent, but just as victory seemed to dawn, the creature unleashed a primal scream, laced with fury and pain. The ground shook violently, a reminder that surrender was not an option for the darkness. It merely recoiled, gathering itself for one last, desperate strike. Steele stumbled, his focus wavering, and instinctively, he reached for Marie's hand. Their palms collided, and a surge of warmth spread through him. He felt her strength vibrate through their connection, grounding him. He could not falter now. Steele. Marie's voice trembled, and he turned to see her face pale as the burgeoning darkness swirled maliciously. It's coming back. We have to be ready. A creeping realization rushed over him. They were facing more than just a creature, they were confronting their deepest fears, their most painful regrets, the very essence of despair. And if they lost, the darkness wouldn't only destroy them, it would escape into the world beyond, unchained and ready to feast anew. With the culmination of their energies, they prepared for the final clash. But the question loomed in the air, heavy and suffocating: would they break the chains binding the darkness, or would they be swallowed whole, becoming shadows themselves? As the ground shivered ominously, anticipation crackled, leaving Steele breathless. The confrontation could either save them or seal their fate. And the chilling truth gripped his heart: they needed to confront not only the monster outside but the demons within, and in that moment, Steele knew this was just the beginning of a battle that might tear them apart, or unite them forever. The air around them was electric, raw with tension. Steele felt the ground tremble beneath his feet, and for a moment, it felt as though the whole world was watching. The shadows were coiling tighter, threatening to consume them, but he refused to back down. He had come too far and lost too much to let fear dictate his fate or his friend's fate. Now! He shouted, and the gang surged forward together, a wave of defiance against the impending darkness. As they advanced, a blinding white light erupted from within them, fueled by shared memories, laughter, and love. It poured into the shadows, forcing back the malevolent force trying to envelop them. The creature howled, thrashing and writhing against their collective strength, its form flickering as it tried to reclaim the darkness. Steele felt the warmth of camaraderie wrap around him like a protective shield. They were no longer just individuals, they were united, a single force cutting through despair. "I won't let you take anyone from us," he roared, his voice echoing, filled with gritty determination. The old man's advice resonated in his mind: face the truth. The creature wasn't just torment, it was a reflection of their past, a manifestation of every choice, every regret that had ridden their backs like a heavy cloak. Each member of the Hell's Angels pushed forward, fueled by memories of the people they wronged and the lives they touched. Steele thought of all the laughter beneath the stars, of the dreams they once had, and it ignited a fire within him. "Remember the light," he shouted. "We are more than our fears, we are our choices." Suddenly, the shadows hesitated, flickering as if confused by the onslaught of light. Steele saw his chance. "Keep pushing. We can shatter this thing," Marie shouted, her voice rising above the chaos, and her strength pulled them all together like a magnet. With renewed determination, the gang unleashed their voices into a resounding cheer, a celebration of every joy and every hard-fought moment. It was a chant filled with life, and its rhythm vibrated in the air. The combined power of their spirits surged through them, amplifying the bright wave of energy that snaked its way toward the looming creature. "Feel your strength," the old man bellowed, standing firm amidst the fray, his gaze unwavering, a lighthouse against the storm. "It's time to let go of your past but not forget it. Harness what you've learned." The shadows convulsed violently. The creature screeched, anguished as the force of their light began to unravel its form. Steele felt the darkness pulling back, shrieking in fury. This was it, the moment they had fought for. Together. One final push. Steele urged, and as his friends advanced, the darkness shrieked one last angry protest, and the world shook. Dust and debris flew into the air, but they didn't falter. They pressed on. Suddenly, an explosion of light erupted from their midst, clashing against the entity and lighting up the alley like the dawn breaking after a long, dark night. The figure recoiled in terror. The air was filled with the echoes of their shared past, a cacophony of both joy and sorrow, love and regret, all swirling around them in a joyous collision. With one final, exultant shout, they merged their energy, pushing the light forward like a tidal wave crashing onto the shore. The shadows shattered, swirling and dissipating before them, dissolving into nothingness. An eerie silence enveloped the group, and then, with a final flicker, the darkness was gone. Steele stood panting, heart racing. The alley was silent now, the oppressive gloom lifted like a bad dream at dawn. They were still there, together, breathing in the fresh air, feeling the weight lifting from their shoulders. "Did we do it?" Marie whispered, scanning the space around them, hope mingled with disbelief. "I think we did," Steele replied, tears springing to his eyes, tears built on relief and the realization that they had faced their fears together and emerged victorious. They weren't just alive, they were reborn, their pasts now a testament to resilience rather than chains of defeat. The old man smiled softly, a knowing look of validation in his eyes. "Courage is about facing the dark and choosing to walk in the light instead. Remember this, and you will always find your way." As they stood in the glow of their victory, the gang shared a group hug, laughter breaking through the remnants of tension like sunlight through branches. Each vow whispered in that moment solidified their resolve. They would face the future together, sharing the weight of their mistakes, but also their hopes, their joy, and their dreams, and as the first hints of dawn painted the sky bright orange and pink, Steele realized that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be long, but they had learned what it truly meant to be free to face the shadows, shed the burdens of regret, and embrace every part of their journey. "Let us ride," Steele said, a smile lifting his lips as they mounted their motorcycles, engines roaring to life. With the wind in their hair and the rising sun as their witness, the gang thundered down the road, a family forged by fire, riding towards a future brighter than they ever thought possible. Now's the time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next incredible story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us keep bringing you amazing content. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Remember, only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.